Welcome to the Release Show. I'm your host, Brittany Sconyers. On today's show, we have Hehre. Isa is a world-renowned social entrepreneur, CEO, plus founder of OVI Healthcare, which is an international movement of innovative medical facilities for vulnerable populations. She is also a duly licensed U.S. physician assistant. She is also the youngest ever recipient of the Muhammad Ali Humanitarian Award for Global Citizenization. Let's welcome Isa.
Hi, thank you so much.
You.
I'm doing
Great.
well, so glad to be here.
Yay! So how is Kenya?
It's wonderful. It's so good.
Great. So please let everyone know, how did you get from Kentucky to Kenya?
Oh my goodness. I drew out of a hat, if you could live any life, what would it be and why? And I was like, oh, well, I'd love to find the world's most vulnerable children and help them get medical care. Had never really thought of that. I always credit it to just being a pageant girl. Like, that was my world peace answer, but it was in my heart. And someone's like, well, if that's the life you would want to live, then why aren't you living it? And was just instantly convicted and was like, wow, like, am I capable of that? So Google searched where in the world I could find medical opportunities and ended up here in Migori, Kenya.
Wow, what an amazing transition. How's life living in Kenya right now?
It's beautiful. I just absolutely love it here. We've been coming, we've lived here for over 3 years now, but it's been home for 8 years. And so I just, of course, spent some time in the U.S. because I got stuck with the travel bans, and it's just given me a whole new appreciation for everything that we've built here and getting to just be in my dream life every single day.
That's great. So your work in helping vulnerable populations, developing nations get access to healthcare is remarkable. What inspired you into venturing into this area of service for humanity?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with a parent who had cancer. And so I think I always kind of watched that and saw, I always had a heart for people who were really, really sick. And whenever I came over here and saw kind of the lack of access to care, and especially people who had chronic illnesses or critical illnesses, things that couldn't be addressed by just, little medical camps that pop up every now and then, really had a heart for them. And then particularly was thinking one day, what about people who have no representation at all, who don't have the finances, but what about abandoned children, orphan children, those widowed women who are shut in their homes and the ambulances and even cars can't reach them? Like, who is seeking them out? And I did some research and found that there was a tremendous need. And that's where I wanted to step in initially as a clinician going and getting my medical degree, but then eventually found out that enabling people and teaching them how advocating on their behalf was able to scale it even bigger. So a lot of what I do now is developing the systems and enabling the people here to do it. So a lot of people might think I walk around with a stethoscope all day, like going and finding children. And that's kind of how this started. But from that, we now have a staff of over 60 just here in Kenya who's working day in and day out. And I just advocate on their behalf.
That is incredible. How many hospitals do you run in Africa and the world, and what service area do you focus on?
Yeah, so here in Kenya, we do absolutely everything for children. So it started out as an orphan hospital, expanded into vulnerable children, abandoned children, everything from critical care to even naturopathic services, massage therapy, physical therapy. We go out and do remote medical camps, and that's over 2 facilities here. One that is the OVI Children's Hospital, and the OVI Holistic Health Center is opening here on the same campus in January. And then next year in Bangladesh, we're going to be opening a children's hospital almost identical to the system we have here in Kenya, and also a women and children's hospital for a specific cancer focus. That's something we've gotten really passionate about here. I had a profound interest in pediatric oncology whenever I was going through PA school. And so that's something I've really sought out, as well as bringing advanced treatment into these countries.
That is so amazing. In the past few years, you traveled to very remote places and developing countries, overseeing projects and interacting with local people in need. How has your personal experience shaped your life and the perception that people have for developing countries?
Yeah, I think that I couldn't have made more of a 180 from the first time that I came over here to where I am now. And I think, like a lot of people, you think, okay, I want to run a nonprofit. And so what I'm going to do is go and talk to everybody else who's ever run a nonprofit. But once I got here, it didn't even take me 2 or 3 months to realize that, honestly, the nonprofits were sometimes the problem. We were making things worse. People were obsessing over data. It was more of a like corporate world kind of competition. Everybody wanted to serve the most people, but it was fragmented care. It was fragmented aid. It wasn't lasting. And some of the things were really exploiting or endangering these children. And I was like, I want to do things differently. I want to figure out how can I build the system in a way that's empowering people? And the way that I did that was by really taking time to sit down and talk with the leaders, like, of the communities, and also just leaders in the world. Nobel Peace Prize winner Dr. Yunus in Bangladesh, he does Grameen Bank and so many amazing projects. I sat and talked with him about his experiences. I got to meet with the Dalai Lama in India, President Obama's grandmother here in Kenya, and just sitting with them and people who know the cultures and are intimately involved in them. It's been very humbling and very, I credit everything that I've done to sitting with these leaders and also just sitting with the people in the community and listening. Sometimes we want to think that as Americans, we have some big power that we have to go and share with the world, but really they know what they're doing, and just enabling them and being a voice for them is enough. And when you step into that, the way that you see your staff work, no one here is waiting for a volunteer to come and help them. Like, every single day they wake up and they take care of these children because this is their children. They're changing their community. They're changing their country. They're changing the world, and they take ownership over that. And I really think that's the key for anybody who wants to get into humanitarian aid work is don't go in and just try to do it by yourself, but tap into the resources, like tap into the beautiful people and all the human capital that isn't being utilized, because that's what's going to last. You want people to pass this on to their children and to their grandchildren, their great grandchildren. You don't want to take on that responsibility upon yourself.
I love the work that you are doing. You are an incredible individual, inspiring to myself. Just started so young, and you are doing amazing work in Kenya, and now you're going to be moving on to Bangladesh. And that's incredible to have a big heart like that and to want to help kids and adults who are living in poverty is a great thing. And because everyone needs help, you never know. And what you're doing is going to inspire other people as well. And if there's any way we can help you, let me know. Let the audience know how they can help you in your journey of creating these hospitals for the poverty.
Yeah,
the people in poverty.
The biggest thing that we want to do. Sorry, I think you cut out for a second. Did I catch the question?
Okay. Did you get it?
Oh,
I was asking you. Okay.
Oh, sorry. There might be a little delay. I heard how the audience could help us, how they could support us. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So we are still in the very beginning stages, even though we have multiple facilities and we're really scaling and growing. We're a small little thing, and we're wanting to be bigger. We want people to know about us, and we have something called OVI Collective that's going to be launching really soon. And it's just going to be a powerhouse of people who are our monthly supporters, but also just intricately involved in what we do. And it's really amazing just to see where every single dollar goes, how it multiplies. My husband and I actually built this calculator where you can put in a dollar amount and actually see, based on the percentages of patients we see, like how many lives you're impacting, how many overnight hospital stays. And yeah, I think raising awareness, getting to know the organization, hearing the stories. This is built on miracles, and talent donations. There's so many people who've come alongside us and been like, hey, I'm not in a position to contribute financially, but I want to help you with marketing, or like you are with a podcast, or I want to help you with visibility. Can I run an article, or can I, and those things are massive, because you never know what even just pressing the share button will do. It could put it in front of any eyes that could change our world.
That is so true. How was it meeting Obama's grandmother?
Oh, she was phenomenal. I actually met her before I moved here and opened the hospital, but she just has an incredible humanitarian heart, and isn't very public about it, very humble, takes care of a ton of widows and orphans and builds schools. And she's just a truly incredible person. She's also from our specific tribe. And so she didn't speak English fluently, but I could hear a little bit of what she said, which is so cool. And I actually take that as one of the most impactful things in my perspective, is remembering that any child that we find here could be the grandparent of the next president in one of the most powerful countries in the world. So looking at every single child, every single patient as, I mean, if that's not proof enough, someone from our little tribe, our village, only less than 13% of Kenya was in the family line of Obama. You never know. You never know what that one life will lead to.
You never know. That is so incredible. Leaving your comfort zone and going to remote places in the world is a very challenging thing to do. Where do you get the inspiration to continue doing this, even in the face of challenges?
Oh, goodness. I seek inspiration through a lot of different practices, but I'd say the major ones would be just daily meditation and rest, taking time to just be grateful. When you're a leader in this kind of movement, it's just going to be stress. It's going to be stress. There's going to be spiritual attacks. There's going to be all kinds of things that come your way, but really just seeking to have a calm presence, which did not come naturally for me. I suffered with anxiety and depression my entire life, but learning how to channel anxiety into empathy and do that in a healthier way. I love to read. I love to study business. I love to take courses. I love to learn from other people. You cannot get competitive. The moment that you get competitive, you just stop your impact. If you find someone who's doing it better than you, you want to sit with them. You don't want to outdo them. You don't want to compete with them. You want to sit with them. You want to learn from them. And so looking at everything as a collaboration opportunity, not a competition, really taking care of your body, trying to get enough rest, meditating, prayer, anything that you can do, making time for your family, making time for yourself, because it is just so true. Until you learn to love yourself and give yourself grace, it's almost impossible to show up for anyone.
That is so powerful. Thank you. What beautiful words you have. You're considered as one of the youngest people alive making a global impact. How did you come to achieve this status?
Oh, sorry, I missed a little bit of the question. It cut up just a little bit.
Okay, no worries. You're considered as one of the youngest people alive making a global impact. How did you come to achieve that status?
I mean, I honestly just did a lot of things that I did not think I could do. If I'm being very real, I took a lot of risks, and I took a lot of criticism, and I cried a lot, and I had a lot of hard times, and I went through periods where I felt like the biggest loser in the world. I really did. Nobody was cheering for me when it was like, oh, 22-year-old girl dreams of building a hospital in Africa. It was, it wasn't until I actually got the building and showed myself that I was getting any support at all. But then you get on the other side of things, and there's a whole other battle once you are successful. And so it has just been dying to myself, understanding that people will misunderstand me. It is not if, it is they will, and showing up for the people who understand, and not and being okay with not being accepted by everyone. If you have any pride, it's going to be very, very hard to try to change the world. But if you can be littler than that and stand up and be an advocate, use your voice, look at other lives as more important than your own. And every single person in this building, I see as just as important in this as I am. Like, if someone was not down there elbow deep in laundry or changing diapers, like, I couldn't, it wouldn't matter what we do, you know. Every single person plays a role, and you have to treat them that way. You have to talk to everybody that way. And I think that I was just blessed to have enough people who came alongside me in times of attack or in times of panic, and just were like, it isn't about you. It's so much bigger than you. And all you can do is show up. And if you don't ask, the answer will always be no. It will always be no. It's guaranteed to be no. So just go after it. Keep doing it. You are qualified, and not even finding the power in yourself, but in collaboration and in God. And that's all you need. Like, don't think about you and your abilities, because if I thought about my abilities, I would think about someone who had 2 Fs in undergrad, or someone who suffered with dyslexia and anxiety and depression and all these things. Like, I was not cut out for the medical program that I applied for, but I got in the very first time with other people who had 4.0s and had applied 5 times. You know, you never need to discount yourself or say that, okay, I won't do it because I'm afraid of being rejected. You have to put yourself out there. I showed up to Kenya to become a clinical officer. I didn't know that I was one of less than 10 people who are duly certified as a clinical officer and a PA. If I'd done that much research, or if I had that scarcity mindset, me and my husband never would have moved to Kenya, because we would have been like, oh, it's going to be impossible to get licensed there. Someone's got to be the first. Someone has got to be the person to do it. So if you have that calling on your life, just showing up for it, and just not letting anything stop you.
When you became the youngest recipient for the Muhammad Ali Humanitarian Award, how did that make you feel?
I mean, I couldn't believe it, really. You look at the list of people who've been recognized, and it's like presidents of the United States and celebrities. And I think the most humbling part of all, though, is just, I love Muhammad Ali, and just the words he spoke and the presence he had and the unity that he brought in the very difficult time that he lived through in society. And meeting his wife, Lonnie, and she would just tell me over and over throughout the weekend, you remind me so much of Muhammad. Like, you remind me so much of my husband, like his love for children, the way you carry yourself. And I was just like, even more than the award, take the whole award away, but having his wife say that I had any type of resemblance to him and who he was and what his heart was for the world was just, I mean, that changed my life. I would have taken that over the award any day.
Well, congratulations on that.
There
are many young people, you're welcome. There are many young people like you all over the world who want to help. How do you think they can help so that they make a tangible impact?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you can do first is to believe in your own vision, and to really seek out help. Be humble, learn about the communities. You know, don't just go in and throw up a nonprofit if you haven't done your research. Like, really get the data, really meet the locals, talk to people, and try to do everything in a way that is going to empower and that's going to last. I think the problems really come when we are too rash in our decisions, or when we don't think complexly enough. I started something called the Global Visionary. I just launched it, and it's all about helping people who are particularly creative, because that's where I feel like I come in, like a storyteller, a dreamer. People discount that. Like, everyone thinks you have to have a medical degree to go and change the world, but so much of what I do has been business and storytelling and art. And I just encourage anybody to look at their own talents and think, you know, how can they use those things to change the world, but also how can they show up as ethically as possible. I got a little tangential there, but yeah, sometimes, I know what I was saying. Sometimes we don't think complexly enough, I think, and I was even guilty of this when you first start going on mission trips and things. And this is one of the faults of the system. One of the biggest, what would you say? One of the biggest kind of monetary income producing activities that nonprofits do is bring people on mission trips, week-long mission trips, 2-week-long mission trips. And what I would always say, if you want to change the world, use a mission trip as something to change your soul, as something to inspire you, as something to go and learn hands-on and to model your own techniques after, but go in knowing that that is also a service to you, and these people are welcoming you into their culture, into their vulnerable places. And that's not a gift. You know, I always tell people, and this is kind of a weird thing to say because a lot of nonprofits don't go there, but I'm like, if you want a baby to be held, you know, the money, maybe it'll take $3,000 to get a plane ticket and a program fee and all these vaccinations. And then you come over here for a week, maybe 10 hours a day, you get to hold that baby, but you're going back. If we think about that just a little bit more complexly, like that same money could maybe employ 4 women who are currently separated from their children. Their children are in orphanages right now because they can't even afford to feed them. So by putting that money towards enabling them to have a career, those babies are getting held 12 hours a day, 5 days a week for an entire year. 4 families are getting to be reunited. So if you want the baby to be held, and if you want to change the world, and that's all you want to do, maybe look at where to put your funds. If your goal is impact, like, is the best thing for you to do to get on a plane? And I'm guilty of that. I mean, I went to 40 something countries. I mean, I get it. And I do think, you know, I had a reason to do that because I was going and I was learning strategies. But at the same time, just really test your intentions and be aware of how you promote what you're doing, because the mission trips, the little short-term mission trips, they're impactful, but you have to see them as an investment in yourself. If you want to change the world, I would really say invest in existing projects. That's like a kind of a hard truth, but if I could go back and tell my younger self anything, it would be to really get that message across, because I believe there's so much potential for change there.
That's a great perspective. I never thought of it like that. So thank you for that. You know, a lot of people go on missions trips and they go over to help, you know, but I like the way you put it, you know, think about where to use your money and how to use your funds to help people. Yeah. And you probably can impact more lives by funding some kind of organization versus going over there just to see what's going over on that side of the world. So
and
I
it's
definitely
just a heart check. Yeah, I think, I mean, short-term mission trips changed my life. I'm by no means against them. I think just knowing your intentions is everything. And we're kind of set up for failure whenever that is how it's marketed to us. You know, go and change the world on this short-term trip, go and change the world, go and hold a baby, go and do this. Like, I've been guilty of that. We used to host volunteer trips and you very much put that person in the hero seat. And it isn't always enabling to the people in the long-term positions here. So I believe in short-term trips, but I believe in doing them with extreme conscientiousness. Because there are so many people who really, their heart would be broken if they knew, you know, what the other side of impact could have been with their funds. So I like to do that, and really researching the organizations that you're giving to as well. Investing in sustainable causes. I try to be a little bit, I love peace, but you have to be a little bit disruptive too. Like, when you advocate, you have to know that not everything with a good heart helps. Something that I did, child sponsorship. I love child sponsorship. I've sponsored a child my whole life. I don't have anything completely against it, but I will say that as someone who goes into orphanages very often and sees children who are at risk, and I'll just give you one example. There was a baby who was abandoned, and he had HIV/AIDS, and it's very stigmatized to have HIV here, even still. And so children with HIV almost never get adopted. And I remember being at this orphanage and actually witnessing a family who came in and wanted to adopt this child. And because this child was sponsored for $14 a month by an American, the orphanage absolutely would not let this child be adopted. He was a sponsored child. And so for $14 a month, that child will never get to have a family. And that broke my heart. And we had a child sponsorship program here. And I was like, I never even want to have the temptation of keeping a child here, because maybe they're on cancer treatment and it's $800 a month and we're having a hard time, and maybe we could keep them here one more month. Like, I want to be patient centered. And even though it's hard, it's so much harder to raise money for an organization. It takes a lot more creativity. It takes a lot more time to get people behind an impact versus a child or a person. But really, when we see these things, being aware of them, admitting our mistakes, sharing our experiences with people publicly so that we can do better as nonprofits as a whole. Because I know there's so many things we do with good intentions, but you just have to be adaptive and humble, and knowing that you can always, always, always learn and always do better. And when you see those things, taking immediate responsibility and advocating for others to do the same.
Yes, so I actually sponsored a family through Compassion. You ever heard of Compassion?
Yeah, I did as well.
So, okay. So, yeah, I did that for like 2 years. I did it. Some representatives came to our church and they spoke about it, and it was on my heart. And I was like, I want to do this, but it would hurt me to know that if my money was stopping them from being adopted. You know, I'm so happy that you gave that perspective, because a lot of people may not even know that.
Yeah, and I personally love Compassion. I have a Compassion child that I sponsored for 18 years, actually, like her whole life, and love what they do. But a lot of people duplicate the same model without the same integrity. And it is just hard. I'll be very, very real. Like, $14 a month could be, I mean, that could be a lot of money here for some of these organizations. And so, yeah, just realizing we want to set these people up for success. We want to set these organizations up to do well. And so becoming aware and making a new normal, and just becoming more fired up about the overall impact, about not just like having Johnny on the fridge, but enabling Johnny to get adopted. Maybe Johnny's family doesn't have to be sponsored for 10 years because they end up getting a career with guidance that allows them to have their own income. Like, really, my passion is solution-based systems. Are we going in and actually ending the orphan crisis so that my orphan hospital isn't needed 10 years from now? That's what I started doing, the orphan prevention programs. It started as an orphan hospital because I was like, oh, well, we'll never run out of orphans. But then I was like, no, like, there are still grandparents, aunts, and uncles who would love to have these babies. And I started figuring out, like, the fathers are surrendering these children to the orphanages because they have 5 other children at home. Just a can of formula is $13. There's no way they could afford it. They have no other option. Then sometimes they'll even try like water, salt, and sugar. Their baby is dying. And so all they know to do is take that baby to an orphanage and never see them again. Once a baby's in the system, a lot of times they never come out. So what we started doing, and what we encourage other organizations to do, is to intervene whenever there is a death. Like, have the hospital call us. Whenever there's an abandoned child, have them bring the child to stabilize at the hospital, so that we don't have to put children in institutions unnecessarily. Yes, there will always be total orphans with 2 deceased parents or abandoned children. But, by preventing an orphan, you're enabling another orphan to have a space, to have their meal, to have their education. But when we're overcrowding these facilities with unnecessary institutionalization, it's just becoming an industry. It's becoming a tourist attraction. It's hard. And I just want people to fall in love with the idea of solution-based systems, ending the orphan crisis, ending the poverty cycle. How do we build our hospitals? How do we build our facilities? How do we build our NGOs in a way that they aren't needed later on? That we actually get to see an impact forever. That's my passion. Don't get obsessed with the number of people that you're impacting, but the actual transformation that is happening. How cool if I serve 1,000 orphans this year, but then 10 years from now, I only have to serve 100 because there's so many fewer in the communities.
That is so amazing. What are the most important things you think needs to be done to improve healthcare access in developing countries?
Oh, goodness. I think that we just have to see it as our responsibility. I do believe healthcare is a human right, and coming in alongside these communities and making healthcare more affordable, putting in remote medical camps where we can, making people aware of the vulnerable people and having systems built into where there's a little bit more of a scaled pay rate. Because right now what I'm seeing is people will show up to the hospital and it's almost like Walmart. Like if you can't pay for the service, you don't get to enter. And so I want to go in these countries where there's a little bit more protection for those people, because a lot of times in the developing world, there are people who could pay a little bit more for their care, and having that charity, having that welfare set up, or having systems, social businesses, huge need in a lot of these developing countries is having some businesses that are putting away money for these kind of social causes. So go in and not even just looking at donation run systems, but what businesses could you empower people to run that gives them an income for themselves, but also addresses these crisis situations as well.
Okay, great. Please name one thing you would like to change about the world and why.
I would love to see people, and I know this is kind of a common theme for me, but just being kind. I mean, is that crazy? I think with particularly COVID and things right now, people are locked in their houses. They get a lot more brave, and I'm noticing patterns of a lot more attacks online, on social media, and we get into this position where we don't understand our power, and we don't understand the weight of our words. And even celebrities, high-profile people, like our politicians, our business leaders, like just saying one unkind thing can derail someone. It can derail their ability to get up. And so no matter how much you dislike someone, no matter how much you disagree with someone, really understanding that they have a value to someone in this world. I don't care who you have to think about. I tell people, like, even if you have to think about that person's dog, imagine that person's dog being locked inside their house, crying at the window because their owner is gone. Like, if you have to get to animals to have empathy, just find something that helps you find value in people, because I think one of the most destructive things and I see poverty, I see death and dying, but one of the most sad things I'm seeing is the way that we're just destroying each other on the internet. And I think there's a huge amount of power in that, and that's something we can change very immediately, is loving other people, being more graceful. And if you need to have a conversation, maybe have it in the DMs instead of the comment boxes. Like, I think those things will change our world. That's a small step.
Yes, I wish the world just showed more love and compassion towards each other. We all have our own opinions about things, but if we come together and just love each other no matter what, I think the world would be a better place. But unfortunately, the times that we're in right now is showing a different side of the world. And I just wish there was more love and compassion. I've seen a lot of attacks and craziness on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and it hurts, because sometimes I see my friends post certain things and I'm like, should I be friends with you? Like, should I, I don't know if I want that energy in my life. And so, social media
that's huge. That's huge. What you said right there. I mean, people, I think really are afraid to let go of negative energy, or they feel like they have to fix. And sometimes the most unloving thing you can do is just to let someone not like you, or to give them space to be who they are. And if it's meant to come back around, it'll come, that friendship will restore itself. But yeah, everybody trying to fix each other. And, it's a tough time, and it makes a big difference.
It really is. I think there's a lot of mental illness. It's on an all-time high here too. And I just think that people are just tired and hurting. And so, you know, the saying says, hurt people hurt people. And I really, truly believe that. If you don't have the right mindset, a positive mindset, you can hurt other people. And even people who are so-called positive, we all have our days where we get angry and upset, and everybody goes through things. So it's just about, when you're going through something, just take a step back and reevaluate yourself and just get some me time and self-love for yourself, because it's very, very important, because you never know how you'll react to certain situations, and it could be hurtful to another person. So I wish that we could show more love on the internet. You know, right now we can't hug and love on each other, but we can show it in a different way. And if we do that, the world would be a beautiful place to live in. You know, we have to be a representation, a role model for our kids, which is very important. The kids are seeing this on the internet, and so we are destroying their minds too. And we have to be role models for them, and we have to show them the right way and what's right from wrong. And so that they can grow up in love and be compassionate towards each other, because they learn from home. And so if you're showing it at home in a negative way, that's what they're going to do in the world. And so everybody just spread love. Let's take this time and just spread some love.
Absolutely.
So what are your future plans?
Oh, so, I mean, I have a number. I really want to develop 888 medical facilities across the developing world. Wow. And so what I do is modularize plans in a way. Clearly, 888, I'm not going to be on the ground running all these different hospitals. And I actually don't run this one. If I'm being quite frank, I developed the systems and everyone here runs it. Like, I was over in the US for the last 6 months. And so I really believe that we have something phenomenal here. It's meticulous. Every single little detail has a strategy to it, down to what the kids wear, the kind of diaper, like cloth diapering, the formula, like all the different things we do. We're writing them down to a science, and we're making it to where you can basically hand over a manual of, this is exactly step by step by step how you can run this facility, how you can fund it, how you can empower your staff, how we can stay connected. And yeah, that's my goal, is to find community leaders who are passionate. I call us a movement of world changers. That's what I see it as. It's not just even, because I used to say a global movement of medical facilities, and I'm like, now we're a global movement of world changers, because it's not just the facility. It's not, I go and I put a building and it magically runs itself and saves lives. Like, you have to seek out those world changers in these communities. And we do, you know, try to stick to our 100% locally staffed facilities. And so bringing in people who, it's their home, it's their community, they understand the culture. If you can just give them the process and give them the resources, 888 is a small number. It's not a scary number.
Well, that looks like a big number to me.
If it were just me, it would be. Absolutely. One was a very big number when it was dependent on me. So.
Okay. You are a true inspiration. Reading about your journey gave me chills. You have accomplished so much, and you have an even brighter future ahead of you. Thank you so much for being on the Release Show. Please let everyone know how they can reach out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you see my name right here, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. It's like my new video game. I just really got active on it. But yeah, I love to share OVI Healthcare. It's spelled OVI Healthcare. Also on all of those platforms. And I would love to connect with you. So.
Thank you. Well, thank you guys for tuning into the Release Show. I'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.